The Caregiver from Hell, a Suburban Nightmare. Title: The Caregiver from Hell. In the quiet suburbs of Ohio, families trusted home caregivers to provide love and support to their elderly relatives. But no one suspected that one of them, a seemingly kind and gentle woman named Margaret Holloway, was a monster hiding in plain sight. Margaret, 47, had been working as a private home caregiver for over a decade, moving from family to family, offering her services to the sick and elderly. With her soft voice and motherly demeanor, she was the perfect choice, trustworthy, attentive, and compassionate. But behind her warm smile lurked something dark, something twisted. She didn't see her patients as people in need of care. She saw them as prey. The first kill. Her first victim was 82-year-old Gerald Whitmore, a retired professor suffering from mild dementia. Margaret was hired by his daughter to provide round-the-clock care. For weeks, she gained Gerald's trust, feeding him, bathing him, listening to his stories. But late one night, as he slept peacefully in his recliner, she placed a plastic bag over his head and held it tight. He woke up struggling, his frail hands scratching desperately at the bag, his muffled screams filling the room. Margaret simply hummed a lullaby as she watched the light fade from his eyes. She removed the bag, carefully wiped her fingerprints, and positioned his body as if he had simply passed away in his sleep. The coroner ruled it a natural death. No one suspected a thing. The killing spree. After Gerald, Margaret became more emboldened. She moved from one client to the next, selecting her victims carefully. Lonely, vulnerable seniors with little to no family. She experimented with different methods. Mrs. Agnes Harper, 79, force-fed her an overdose of insulin, sending her into a fatal hypoglycemic coma. Mr. Louis Bennett, 85, injected air into his bloodstream using his own syringes, causing a fatal embolism. Mrs. Diana Caldwell, 90, slowly poisoned her tea with antifreeze over the course of 2 weeks. Margaret took pleasure in her work. She loved watching the fear in their eyes when they realized something was wrong, their bodies betraying them while she stood there, offering fake reassurances. The moment they died, she would hold their hands and whisper, "You're safe now." She kept trophies, small personal items from each victim, a wedding ring, a rosary, an old pocket watch. She stashed them in a wooden box under her bed, each item a grim reminder of her mercy work. The mistake that led to her arrest. Margaret would have continued killing if it weren't for 88-year-old Harold Duncan. Unlike her past victims, Harold had a suspicious daughter, Lisa, who constantly monitored her father's care. Lisa installed a hidden nanny cam in the living room after noticing bruises on Harold's arms. One evening, Lisa logged into the camera feed from her phone, expecting to see her father sleeping. Instead, she watched in horror as Margaret force-fed him a spoonful of something thick and dark, whispering, "Swallow it down, Harold. It's time to rest." Seconds later, Harold began convulsing violently. Margaret stood by, watching coldly as foam bubbled from his mouth. Lisa immediately called 911. By the time paramedics arrived, Harold was dead, but so was Margaret's freedom. The shocking truth revealed. When detectives searched Margaret's home, they found the wooden box filled with her victim's belongings. The forensic team tested the remaining substances in her medicine kit, uncovering lethal doses of various drugs and poisons. During questioning, Margaret remained eerily calm. She never denied the murders. Instead, she smiled and said, "They were all suffering. I set them free." She was sentenced to life in prison without parole. But to this day, families of her past clients wonder, just how many others had she killed before she was caught? And worse, how many more caregivers like her are still out there?